You're watching this video because you want to make a communications campaign that is awesome, but you're not totally sure where to start. Don't worry, I've got you. Let's jump in. So I'm going to tell you 5 things you should be thinking about for running any communications campaign. And at the end, I'll give you a little bonus. I'll tell you 2 key mistakes that I see people make all the time and you can avoid them. Okay, the very first thing you want to be thinking about in any communications campaign is who is your audience? Who do you want to reach? Who do you want to influence? Who do you want to target with this campaign? So if you're running a communications campaign inside an organization, for example, it's really common for your stakeholders to tell you, oh, the audience for this is everybody. All employees need this. So it's really important at the start getting curious about who is the audience for this campaign. So you can ask yourself questions about who actually really needs this information. So you can ask your stakeholders questions like, well, you're saying it's for everybody. Does that include our employees in Spain? Does that include our part-time contractors? Does that include our frontline workers? And you'll find that they'll often go, oh, actually, no, they probably don't need it. And no, it's not for them. So it's rarely everybody. And the reason you want to think about your audience up front is because your entire campaign is going to be built around them. So you're going to think about who they are, what kind of messages are going to resonate with them, what kind of language they will understand, what kind of information they might already have about this topic. All of this will feed into how you build your campaign. So your audience will also determine the channels that you use. So for example, is your audience sitting at desks all day with easy access to email, or are they actually out and about and they don't have any access to email at all? So that's tip 1. The first thing you should be thinking about, who is your audience? Get really clear on that. It's going to go a long way to set you up for success. All right, the next thing you should be thinking of before you write any content or create any key messages, what is your objective? So your objective is, what do you want to achieve with this campaign? And the best question to ask yourself to find out what your objective is what do we want the audience to do as a result of this campaign? Asking this question will help you just get really laser focused on what's important. It's also going to make it really easy for you at the end of the campaign to figure out if it was effective or not. So let's look at an example. Say you are doing communications inside an organization, and it's an organization that has lots of manufacturing plants. Some of the workers are working in that plant using lots of the machinery. And let's say machine A, there has been lots of safety incidents with that machine lately. And that can easily be avoided if the employees just wear these brand new safety goggles that have been brought in. So you are going to do a communications campaign and your target is all of the workers in these manufacturing plants who are going to be using machine A. So that's your audience. The objective isn't that you want them to be aware of the goggles or you just want them to know the goggles exist. Your objective is that they use them when they are operating machine A. So you're already building here. You've got a really clear audience. Now you've got a clear objective. This is really good. Now sometimes you might be running a campaign where you actually don't need people to do anything. Maybe it's more that you want them to feel something. You want them to feel proud, or you want them to just be aware of something. Maybe there's some compliance issue or some regulatory issue that they really need to know about. So there is a 3-part framework that you can use for setting any communications objective. It's called think, feel, do. The first part, the think, this is, what do I want my audience to think or to understand or to know as a result of this communication? The feel part is, what do I want them to feel as a result of this communication? And then the do is where you want them to take action. What do I want them to do as a result of this? Now my default is always to the do, the take action, because this is more powerful. If you're finding this video useful, by the way, I invite you to subscribe to my channel and hit that like button below. Okay, the third thing I want you to be thinking about when you want to make an amazing communications campaign, you've got your audience, you've got your objective. Now I want you to think about simplicity. You're going to start thinking about your content and your messages. And the main important thing is that it is simple and it is easy for the audience to understand. Now this doesn't sound particularly glamorous or sexy, and it isn't, but man alive, it's really important. Because if your audience doesn't understand what you're trying to communicate, or if they have to do any sort of work to decipher it or try to interpret it, you've lost them. Game over. So really what you want to do is you want to make sure that when anybody sees or hears about this campaign, they can understand it straight away. The language is really clear and easy to understand, and it's easy for them to explain it to somebody else. Because ideally what you want to have an element of contagion in your campaign, where it's so cool or it's so interesting, it's so engaging that they want to talk about it with other people. They want to talk about it in the canteen, they want to tell their friends, and you need to make it really easy for them to do that. Think about if you're watching a program like Dragon's Den, where people come in and they they have to pitch their idea to this group of strangers, and they need to communicate their idea, even if it's technical and complicated, in a really simple way. And it's funny because sometimes people will come on and they will just do such a terrible job of communicating it. The dragons will lose interest. You'll see they might start looking at their phone or looking at the ceiling. That's what you want to avoid. You want to keep it simple, keep it clear and easy to understand. Fourth thing you should be thinking about for a communications campaign is to make it two-way. So you can think about communication in general in two buckets. So one-way communication is where you are broadcasting information at somebody. You're just telling them stuff and they are effectively just passive recipients of that information. And then we have two-way communication. This is where information is going to the audience, but then there's something coming back. So there's a two-way relationship. So that could be the audience getting involved, participating in something, asking questions, interacting with the content, anything like that, but it's a two-way conversation. So when you are doing a communications campaign, you need to think about, how am I going to invite people into this campaign? How am I going to enable them to get involved or create opportunities for them to engage with this content? So maybe in your campaign, you are asking people to share stories or tell their experiences. And do you know what? People love doing this because human beings just love talking about themselves. That's normal, right? So you can use that knowledge to your advantage when you are planning your campaign and build in some two-way connection there. Think of some of those really successful campaigns that we've seen on social media over the last couple of years, like a dance challenge on TikTok or the ice bucket challenge that went around. That was really because people could participate, they could get involved, they felt really included and they were a part of the campaign. And the other thing about planning a two-way campaign is you need to think about easy ways for people to ask questions or give feedback or share their experiences. The trick here is to make it easy. So you don't want to have to make them go and fill out a form and then it has to be signed by their boss and then they have to send it over here. Make it easy for them to take part, and then your chances of success are much higher. Okay, and the last thing that I really think you should be thinking about when you're doing a communications campaign is the deeply unsexy world of measurement. So you need to be able to think about, how am I going to know if this campaign was effective or not? So it can be pretty easy to default to output metrics. So output metrics are things like, well, how many people came to our launch event? How many people opened our email campaign? But these don't really tell you about whether your campaign was effective or not. So the way that you measure the effectiveness of your campaign is to go back to your objective that you set at the start and go, actually, what did I want to achieve and how am I going to measure that? So if we think about our example maybe of that manufacturing plant where we wanted the employees to wear safety goggles, that's what we want to measure, right? It doesn't matter if they opened our emails or came to our launch event. We want to measure, is the usage of those safety goggles going up or not? So maybe at the start of the campaign, before you do anything, you get some information from that plant manager and it says, well, you know, at the moment, about 50% of employees are wearing the safety goggles when they're using machine A. And then you can set a target and say, okay, well, let's say in the next 8 weeks, we're going to move that from 50% up to 80%. And that's how you're going to measure the success of your communications. So it's quite different, isn't it, to just measuring whether people opened your content or not. And the interesting thing about measuring this way is often you are not the owner of that data. Often you're not collecting that data. In this example, that would be owned by the plant manager or the health and safety manager or whoever is overseeing it. So you need to collaborate with those people around the business to find the data you need to show your success. And 2 quick bonus tips, 2 mistakes that I see people make in communications campaigns all the time. The first is setting an objective that is just around creating awareness. So I see people where they're like, I really want people to be aware of this. I just want people to know about this. You need to interrogate this a little bit and ask why. Why does this audience need to know about this? So you might, in the course of this curiosity interrogation, you might find out that actually the audience doesn't need to know about this, in which case there should not be a communications campaign. Or you might find out that they know about this so that they can take action. So let's say wants all employees to be aware of the free flu vaccine that's coming up. But it's not that they want awareness. They want people to go ahead and sign up and get the vaccine. So to always try and interrogate and find out that bit of like, what do we actually want the audience to do? The other mistake I see a lot, and this is particularly true inside organizations, is that campaigns can just be really boring. I don't know why it happens, but for some reason, when we're working in a corporate environment, in any organization, we seem to have this weird way of communicating where we start using words like herewith and here under, and we don't just communicate like normal people. So if you are planning a communications campaign, please remember you are competing against entertaining TikTok videos, viral content, really funny stuff across LinkedIn and other platforms. These are all competing for your audience's attention. It's not good enough to be boring in work. So find a way to make your content interesting, memorable, really engaging to the audience. So Jesus, that was a lot. There is 5 things to think about when you're planning a communications campaign. 2 easy mistakes to avoid. I hope that's really helpful. Do subscribe to my channel if it's useful. I'll see you next time.